I need to write this down while I still can. While my hands are still steady enough to type. While I still remember what it's like to live in a world that makes sense. My name is David Castellano, I'm 34 years old, and I think my daughter might not be entirely human. I know how that sounds. Believe me, I know. But after everything that's happened over the past 3 years, it's the only explanation that fits. Let me start at the beginning. My wife Rachel and I found out she was pregnant in January 2021. We'd been trying for almost 2 years, had been through 3 rounds of IVF, and had almost given up hope. When that pregnancy test came back positive, we cried for an hour straight. Happy tears. Tears of relief. We thought our prayers had been answered. The pregnancy was normal. Morning sickness, weird cravings, all the standard stuff. Rachel glowed. We painted the nursery, bought tiny clothes, picked out names. We decided on Emma if it was a girl, Daniel if it was a boy. The ultrasounds showed a healthy baby. Everything was perfect. That's what we thought, anyway. Rachel is an artist, a painter. Before the pregnancy, she'd been working on a series of abstract landscapes, lots of blues and greens, peaceful stuff that sold well at local galleries. But around her 4th month of pregnancy, her style changed dramatically. She started having vivid dreams. She'd wake up in the middle of the night, covered in sweat, and immediately go to her studio. Sometimes I'd wake up at 3 a.m. to find her standing at her easel, painting in the dark, only the moonlight illuminating her canvas. The paintings from this period were disturbing. Dark, twisted figures with too many limbs. Landscapes that seemed to fold in on themselves. And always, there was the same figure appearing in different contexts, an impossibly tall, thin man with no discernible features, just a blank space where his face should be. I see him in my dreams, Rachel told me when I asked about it. He's always there, standing at the edge of things. Watching. He never moves, never speaks. Just watches. Do you feel threatened by him? I asked, worried this might be some kind of prenatal anxiety manifesting itself. No, she said, which somehow made it worse. I feel, observed. Like he's studying something. Recording it? I suggested she talk to her OB about it, maybe get a referral to a therapist. Pregnancy hormones can do strange things to your brain chemistry. But Rachel insisted she was fine, that these were just weird dreams, that the paintings were her way of processing them. The paintings got darker as her pregnancy progressed. More detailed. The tall man, that's what we started calling him, appeared in every single piece. Sometimes small in the background, sometimes dominating the canvas. Always watching. In her 7th month, Rachel painted something that made my blood run cold. It was the nursery. Our nursery, rendered in perfect detail, the yellow walls we'd painted, the crib we'd assembled, the mobile with little stars hanging above it. Everything exact. Except standing in the corner, barely visible in shadow, was the tall man. And in the crib, instead of a baby, there was just an empty impression, like something had been there and then removed. Why did you paint that? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Rachel stared at the canvas, her hand unconsciously moving to her swollen belly. I don't know. I dreamed it. He was showing me. Showing you what? I'm not sure. I think he's waiting for something. Emma was born on September 15, 2021, at 3:33 a.m. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, perfectly healthy. She had Rachel's dark hair and my green eyes. She was beautiful. We were exhausted but ecstatic. Our miracle baby had arrived. The strange painting stopped immediately. Rachel's dreams returned to normal. She went back to painting landscapes and sold the Dark Period collection to a gallery in Portland that specialized in surrealist art. A collector bought the entire series. We used the money to pay off medical bills and set up Emma's college fund. We thought it was over. We thought it had just been weird pregnancy hormones. We were wrong. Emma was a normal baby at first. She cried, she slept, she ate. All the standard newborn stuff. But around 6 months old, we started noticing something odd. She'd stare at empty corners of rooms for long periods, tracking something with her eyes that we couldn't see. Her gaze would follow movement that wasn't there. All babies do that, the pediatrician assured us. Their visual systems are still developing. They're seeing light patterns, shadows, things adults have learned to filter out. But it wasn't just that. Emma would smile at these empty spaces. She'd coo and babble like she was having a conversation. And sometimes, late at night, we'd hear her laughing in her crib, not crying, laughing even though she was alone in the dark. When Emma turned 1, we gave her crayons and paper. Most kids that age just scribble, making random marks with no pattern or meaning. Emma drew the tall man. The first time it happened, I thought it was a coincidence. Just some vertical lines that happened to look like a tall, thin figure. But she kept drawing it. Over and over. Always the same basic shape, an impossibly elongated body, no facial features, standing among other scribbles that might have been trees or buildings. That's weird, Rachel said, looking at the collection of drawings we'd accumulated over a few weeks. These look like my paintings. The ones from when I was pregnant. Kids have wild imaginations, I said, not wanting to acknowledge what we were both thinking. David, she's drawing the tall man. The exact same figure I painted before she was born. How is that possible? Maybe she saw photos of your paintings. Or we described them to her. But we hadn't. We'd deliberately never shown Emma those paintings or talked about them in front of her. And even if we had, she was barely 1 year old. She shouldn't be able to reproduce complex images with that kind of consistency. As Emma got older and her motor skills improved, the drawings became more detailed. By age 2, she could draw the tall man with disturbing accuracy, the way he seemed to absorb light around him, the wrongness of his proportions, the sense that you couldn't quite focus on him directly. And she started telling us about him. Tall man comes at night, she said one morning at breakfast, completely casual, the way another kid might talk about a pet. Rachel and I exchanged glances. What do you mean, honey? Rachel asked carefully. He stands by my window. He watches me sleep. He's nice. Emma, there's no one by your window, I said, trying to keep the worry out of my voice. You're safe. No one can get into your room. She looked at me with those serious green eyes, my eyes, and said, he doesn't need to get in, Daddy. He's already everywhere. We took her to a child psychologist. Dr. Morrison was a kind woman in her 50s who specialized in early childhood development. She said that imaginary friends were completely normal, that Emma was clearly a creative child, that we shouldn't worry unless the friend was causing Emma distress or making her behave dangerously. Is the tall man telling her to do bad things? Dr. Morrison asked. No, we admitted. She's actually a very well-behaved kid. And is she afraid of him? No. She says he's nice. She draws pictures of him like other kids draw pictures of their parents. Dr. Morrison smiled. Then this is likely just a phase. Many children create complex imaginary friends as a way of processing the world around them. It should fade as she gets older and develops more social connections with real children. But it didn't fade. If anything, it intensified. By age 3, Emma's room was covered in drawings of the tall man. She'd draw him in our house, in our yard, standing on our street. She'd draw him at the park, at the grocery store, at her daycare. Always watching, always present, always just at the edge of things. And then, 6 months ago, something changed. Emma woke up screaming one night. Not the normal nightmare scream of a child, this was different. This was primal, terrified, the sound of someone who'd seen something that broke their understanding of reality. Rachel and I ran to her room. Emma was sitting up in bed, pointing at the window, tears streaming down her face. He's angry, she sobbed. Tall man is angry. He says it's almost time. Time for what, baby? Rachel asked, holding Emma close. Time for me to go with him. My blood went ice cold. Emma, no one is taking you anywhere. You're safe. Mommy and Daddy won't let anyone hurt you. You can't stop him, Emma said with a certainty that chilled me. No one can stop him. He's been waiting since before I was born. He's been waiting for me to be ready. After that night, Emma's behavior changed. She became withdrawn, quiet. She stopped playing with other kids at daycare. She'd spend hours just sitting by her window, staring out at our suburban street, waiting for something. The drawings changed too. Now they showed the tall man getting closer. In earlier drawings, he'd been distant, at the edges. Now he was in the foreground, dominating the page. And in the most recent ones, he was standing right outside our house. Last week, I came home from work to find Rachel sitting at the kitchen table, completely still, staring at a drawing Emma had made that day. It showed our house, rendered in the crude but recognizable style of a 3-year-old. And there, standing on our front lawn, was the tall man. But this drawing was different from all the others. This one had a date written on it in Emma's shaky preschool handwriting, December 25. Christmas Day. 4 days from now. What does this mean? Rachel asked, her voice barely a whisper. Before I could answer, Emma walked into the kitchen. She looked at the drawing, then at us, with an expression far too serious for a 3-year-old. That's when he comes for real, she said. That's when everyone can see him, not just me. That's when I have to decide. Decide what? I asked. If I want to stay here or go with him. He says I belong with him. He says I'm special. He says he's been growing me since before mommy's tummy, since before anything. Since the start of all the starts. Rachel started crying. Emma, you belong here. With us. You're our daughter. We love you. Emma smiled, but it was a sad smile. I love you too. But tall man says I'm not really your daughter. Not all the way. He says part of me is his. The part that was supposed to be Daniel. We'd never told Emma about Daniel. We'd never told anyone outside of immediate family. Daniel was the name we'd chosen for a boy, but Emma was a girl. How could she know that name? Who told you about Daniel? I demanded. Tall man. He tells me lots of things. He says I was supposed to be Daniel, but something went wrong in the between place, and I became Emma instead. He says the part that was supposed to be Daniel is still with him, and on Christmas, I can be whole again. That conversation was a week ago. Since then, things have gotten worse. 3 nights ago, I woke up at 3:33 a.m. the exact time Emma was born to find my daughter standing in our bedroom doorway. He's in the yard, she whispered. Come look. Part of me wanted to refuse, to tell her to go back to bed, to pretend this wasn't happening. But I got up and followed her to her room. We stood at her window, looking out at our front yard. At first, I saw nothing. Just our lawn, the street light casting its orange glow, our neighbor's house across the street. Then my eyes adjusted, and I saw him. Standing at the edge of our property, right where our yard met the sidewalk, was a figure. Impossibly tall, at least 8 or 9 feet. Impossibly thin, like someone had taken a human form and stretched it vertically until the proportions were all wrong. And where his face should have been, there was nothing. Not darkness, not shadow, just an absence. A void where perception went to die. I couldn't breathe. My legs went weak. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to grab my family and get out of the house, to go somewhere this thing couldn't follow. But I couldn't move. I could only stand there, staring at him as he stared back at us. At Emma. See? Emma said softly. He's real. He's always been real. You just couldn't see him before. Rachel. I managed to choke out. Rachel. My wife came running. She looked out the window. She saw him too. I know she did because she made a sound like all the air had been punched out of her lungs. What is that? She whispered. The tall man, Emma said simply. He's waiting. Christmas is in 4 days. We stood there for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. The tall man didn't move. Didn't approach. Just stood there, watching. Finally, as if released from a spell, I grabbed Rachel and Emma and pulled them away from the window. We're leaving, I said. Right now. We're packing bags and getting out of here. It won't matter, Emma said calmly. He'll find me wherever we go. He's been part of me since before I was born. There's nowhere we can go that he isn't. But I didn't care. We threw clothes into suitcases, grabbed Emma's favorite toys, and got in the car. We drove to a hotel 40 miles away. We checked in under a fake name, paid cash, didn't tell anyone where we were going. That first night in the hotel, Emma drew another picture. The tall man standing outside a building. Not our house. The hotel. How does he know where we are? Rachel asked, on the edge of hysteria. He doesn't need to know, Emma explained with a patience that was disturbing in a 3-year-old. He's connected to me. Wherever I am, he can be. He's not really in places like we are. He's in the space between places. We've been moving every night since then. Different hotels, different towns, trying to stay ahead of whatever this thing is. But every morning, Emma draws a new picture, and the tall man is always there, always closer. Tonight is Christmas Eve. Tomorrow is December 25th. The day Emma said he would come for real. I'm writing this from a motel outside of Spokane, Washington, nearly 1,000 miles from our home in Sacramento. Emma is sleeping, actually sleeping, for the first time in days. Rachel is in the bathroom, either crying or praying or both. And I'm sitting here, staring at the most recent drawing Emma made before bed. It shows the three of us, me, Rachel, and Emma standing together. And behind us, touching Emma's shoulder with one impossibly long hand, is the tall man. The drawing is labeled in Emma's handwriting, tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what this thing wants with my daughter. I don't know if we can stop it, or if there's anything to stop. Maybe Emma is right, maybe this has been inevitable since before she was born. But I know I can't run anymore. I know that wherever we go, whatever we do, the tall man will be there. Because he's not following us. He's with Emma. He's always been with Emma. Rachel just came out of the bathroom. She's made a decision, I can see it in her eyes. We're going home, she says. If this thing is coming for our daughter, it's going to have to go through us to get her. I don't care if it's something we can't fight, something we can't understand. She's our daughter, and we're not giving her up without a fight. I nod. Because what else can we do? We'll drive through the night and be home by morning. Christmas morning. When the tall man comes for real. I don't know if I'll be able to update this. I don't know if anyone will ever read it. But I needed to write it down, needed to document what happened, so that if we disappear, if Emma disappears, someone will know the truth. My daughter started drawing the tall man 6 months before she was born. We thought it was coincidence, then imagination, then delusion. But it was none of those things. It was a warning. He's been waiting for her since before she existed. And tomorrow, on Christmas Day, he's going to claim what he believes is his. I'm a rational man. I have a degree in engineering. I believe in science, in logic, in things that can be measured and explained. But I've seen him now. I've seen the tall man standing on my lawn, and I know that some things exist outside of rational explanation. Some things exist in the spaces between spaces, in the gaps in reality that we've learned not to see. And sometimes, those things want our children. It's 11:47 p.m. on Christmas Eve. We're getting in the car now. By the time anyone reads this, it will all be over, one way or another. If you have children, hold them close. If they start drawing things that shouldn't exist, seeing things you can't see, talking about friends who are too strange to be imaginary, don't dismiss it. Don't assume it's nothing. Because sometimes, it's not nothing. Sometimes, it's something that's been waiting in the dark since before time began. Sometimes, it's the tall man. And sometimes, he comes for our children. We're going home now. I'll try to update this tomorrow if I can. If I can't, well, remember us. Remember Emma. Remember that we loved her enough to face something impossible, even knowing we couldn't win. Merry Christmas. And God help us all.